bicycle ride is here to stay. Bicycle
Welcome
ride
to
is not
Street
just
Redesign for Bicycling. This course will present examples of how many cities across the United States are redesigning their streets to not only accommodate but to also encourage bicycling. From road diets that make room for bike lanes to total street redesigns to build bus rapid transit or cycle tracks, U.S. cities are stepping up to the challenge of providing a variety of options for bicyclists in their communities. Chapter 1 will present an introduction of how we got here and what needs to change.
Before World War II, American cities were still primarily transit dependent. After the war, even as we became more prosperous, streetcars and light rail systems continued to be dismantled city by city. And all too often, roads and overpasses were built without any provisions for walking, let alone bicycling. This overpass here in Berkeley is a relic of that era. It was built without any sidewalks and also without any shoulders, the usual last resort of bicyclists and pedestrians. Bicycles and pedestrians were in fact prohibited from roadways all across the United States, including this overpass here in Berkeley. This despite the fact that in California, bicyclists have the legal right to use every roadway. The only exception is freeways and toll bridges.
The construction of the nationwide interstate system, which began during the Eisenhower administration, increased our dependency on cars throughout the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. But at least during this time, kids still predominantly walked to school, and even beyond that into the 80s and 90s. But car culture predominated our transportation and land use decisions in the second half of the 20th century. This resulted in the dismal mode splits for both bicycling and walking found today in most communities. But with the completion of the interstate highway system, the landmark federal legislation known as ICE-T was passed in 1991. ICE-T and subsequent highway bills dramatically increased funding for other modes, including bicycling and walking. This led to what is now known as the Complete Streets movement. The Complete Streets movement includes not only bicycle and pedestrian advocates, but also those concerned about public health and obesity, and those concerned with global warming and our dependence on fossil fuels. The land use and transportation investment decisions made today will affect these issues for generations. The major challenge in implementing complete streets is the limited physical space in our built-out cities. There is a fixed amount of space between buildings that must be allocated among many uses: sidewalks, bicycles, transit vehicles, transit stops, moving cars, and parked cars, not to mention amenities and necessities such as landscaping and street lighting. Reallocating this scarce resource will undoubtedly involve trade-offs and hard decisions as community priorities change. This course will present examples from across the United States of how cities are redesigning their urban spaces. By building bikeways in dense urban places, these cities are challenging what were once thought of as ingrained American cultural attitudes about cars. They are proving that Americans will leave their cars at home when provided with safe and convenient bikeway options. And indeed, Americans might soon demand more bikeways, not more freeways, as a tool to combat traffic
bicycle
congestion.
ride is here to stay. Bicycle ride is not just for